Today we're discussing how the boomers stole Gen Z's future. Today's video comes from Damon Cassidy. His channel will be linked in the description of the video so that you can go check him out. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand the implications of what the boomers have done, how they did it, and the effects it's going to have on society going forward. And guys, go and follow me over on Rumble. Things are not going so great on YouTube. So just so that you can ensure you never miss or lose access to my content, go and follow me on Rumble. All of the content that's on YouTube right now, we're in the process of getting everything over on Rumble. Practically everything's already over there. We're just getting the latest videos up there, and then it'll be regularly updated. But go and follow me on Rumble. It's in the description of the video. And now let's go ahead and jump right into the video after a message from Angry Crypto Academy. So guys, you know what's going on. Hard times are here. The ATMs are going to stop working. Banks are going to chain the doors. Protect your wealth and safeguard your future with crypto. Angry Crypto Academy will teach you how to buy, sell, trade, and invest in crypto. We'll tell you exactly which coins will make you millionaires and how to spot potential coins to invest in. Don't miss out. The Academy is linked in the description of the video. And now let's go ahead and jump right into the video.
To consumer affairs, Gen Z's purchasing power is now 86% lower than baby boomers at the same age, forcing them to spend twice as much on housing and over 300% more on public tuition, all while headlines label Gen Z as the wasted generation. Raising the question, how did the richest generation in American history leave behind a nation drowning in debt? Following World War II, the United States emerged with unprecedented global power, standing as the dominant force in the world economy. While Europe and Japan faced the immense task of rebuilding from the war's catastrophic destruction, the industrial dominance of the United States allowed the US economy to nearly double in size between 1939 and 1945, producing half the world's industrial output while driving up wages by over 60%. This economic expansion allowed millions of soldiers to return home to a nation primed for growth, where expanding industries, rising wages, and government-backed programs made homeownership and family life more accessible than ever, setting the stage for an unprecedented population surge, later known as the baby boom. Between 1946 and 1964, 76 million boomers were born in the United States, making up nearly 40% of the nation's population. Unlike previous generations, where children were predominantly expected to contribute to farm labor, the post-war era gave way to a more nurturing, indulgent approach. Parents who had endured the hardships of the Great Depression, as well as the war, sought to give their children a life of comfort and security, free from the struggles they had faced, specifically within the rapidly expanding American suburbs. These new communities, lined with identical houses, uniform driveways, and neatly trimmed lawns, ingrained the mindset that as long as you were indistinguishable from your neighbor, conforming to the carefully controlled structure of American life, stability and success were inevitable. Dr. Benjamin Spock's The Common Sense Book of Baby and Childcare became the defining voice of this movement, selling over 500,000 copies in just 6 months. His philosophy emphasized emotional well-being over discipline, protection over hardship, and personal happiness over resilience, reshaping American parenting and reinforcing the idea that childhood should be shielded from all struggle. And while it's hard to argue against raising children in a more supportive environment, in this pursuit of raising the perfect child, the nation drastically overcompensated. A 1954 New York Times article, Problems of the Overprivileged Child, warned of excessive protection and overindulgence taking hold with this new generation. Psychologists caution that children raised without hardship might later manufacture struggles, seeking validation through illness or other means to feel important as adults, particularly as early signs of declining health already began to emerge. A 1954 study of 4,500 healthy city and suburban dwelling children aged 6 to 19 found that 56.6% failed to meet even a minimum standard for the kind of muscular strength and flexibility required for active good health. By comparison, in the very same study, only 8% of European children failed to meet the same standards, resulting in young boomers being labeled as coddled, pampered, and spoiled, with even Dr. Spock later admitting they were not resilient enough for the realities of adulthood. However, this wasn't just a shift in parenting. It became the nation's business model. With American spending habits shaped by Depression-era frugality and wartime rationing, corporations saw an opportunity to recondition the largest generation in American history into lifelong consumers, structuring the economy entirely around their wants and needs. Since children were largely expected to be seen and not heard, television quickly became the dominant force in America's nuclear family, allowing corporations to flood young boomers with advertisements designed to fuel their desires.
I dig it, you ain't hip, old man, to Easy Pop popping its own pan.
You mean Easy Pop popped in its own pan?
Now you're swinging, Daddy, crazy man.
One of the most influential figures behind this shift was Ernest Dickscher, often called the Freud of Madison Avenue or Mr. Mass Motivations, as he brought psychoanalytic techniques into advertising, uncovering the hidden desires of consumers and the subconscious insecurities that drove individual behavior, particularly in children. Inside his New York mansion, or what he called his living laboratory, rows of children lined the halls watching television, unaware that resident psychologists, crouching behind special screens, were decoding their reactions to advertising, learning how to manipulate their unconscious minds, and fostering the belief that fulfillment wasn't found in purpose or community, but through the relentless pursuit of material goods, a mindset that shaped not only their personal financial habits, but also the policies they supported, emphasizing spending over economic stability.
We found out in the 50s that if you got up in the morning and went to work and did a good day's work, that things got better. You got promoted or you got more money, you were able to buy furniture, you could have more children, the children could have better clothes, and life just improved. We knew it was because you went to work. But I'm not sure our children realized that. They saw simply that the clothes got better, the house got bigger, the neighborhood got nicer. And I have a strong suspicion that what happened in the late 60s was that the kids who rebelled took it for granted that life would improve automatically.
However, while materialism increasingly shaped American culture, it was the Cold War that fundamentally redefined how children envisioned their future. Unlike their parents, who had endured the direct hardships of war, boomers grew up in an era dominated by ideological conflict. The looming threat of nuclear war, coupled with intense global competition, created a pervasive fear of instability, where according to the Department of Psychology at Harvard University, this fear of nuclear annihilation fostered a sense of having no future, an anxiety that persisted into adulthood, influencing personal decisions like delaying marriage and shaping policies that deprioritized long-term stability. These tensions only deepened following the launch of Sputnik in 1957, which ignited widespread panic that the US was now falling behind in science and technology, where in response, public education underwent a rapid transformation, shifting away from traditional vocational training and emphasizing subjects that deemed critical for global leadership, resulting in the mindset that it was now a college degree that was the only guaranteed path to success. And by the time older baby boomers entered the workforce, Cold War investments in defense and technology had reinforced the belief that economic expansion was permanent, expecting the same stability that their parents had enjoyed. However, employers quickly grew frustrated with what they saw as an entitled generation, unwilling to adhere to the traditional workplace expectations.
And it allowed for a whole generation that I suppose we would now call spoiled kids, which from another point of view simply meant kids who had very high expectations in life with respect to freedom and happiness.
Now, what's really interesting about this is here's a comment regarding the boomers from one of my subscribers. Let's keep in mind the boomers are the wealthiest generation in the history of the world. They are wealthier than every generation to have ever existed. They are wealthier than the wealthiest of people during the heights of the Roman Empire, where the average Roman citizen did not have to work. They are far wealthier than those people. So not only are they the wealthiest, but they are also the longest living in terms of they have the longest life expectancy of any generation of people, also in the history of humanity. I'm not making this up. You can research it yourself. You can jump onto ChatGPT. The boomers have the highest life expectancy of all generations in the history of humanity. This has never happened before. In fact, their life expectancy is higher than every generation that was born before them and that is born after them. So they have a higher life expectancy than their children, their children's children, and their children's children. Don't you guys see something wrong with this? So one of my subscribers commented on this and he said, they're standing there telling you that they're standing there telling us that they're victims of society while holding the blank $80 trillion in assets in their name after a lifetime of closing down American factories to juice their stock prices, printing hundreds of trillions in currency. Absolutely, he's absolutely right. And debt to inflate their own asset values while refusing to retire or train or mentor anyone below them on the ladder while holding in their hand, literally hold in their hand while telling you that they are victims. It's madness. It's absolutely insane. And you can see this. People are finally waking up and realizing that they stole our futures. I criticize Gen Z because of their bad behavior. And the sad thing is that they're exactly like the boomers. The center of their lives is money. And a lot of that is caused by social media because they grew up watching people like Kim Kardashian and all of these horrible people like Jack Dowtry flashing cash that they never really worked hard for. And now they think that these are the lives that they deserve. This is why so many modern women are they are so disconnected from the value of money, where they say that a man has to be 6'6". He has to have a six pack. He has to make above six figures. They say that $1 million is not even a lot of money, even though they'll be consciously aware that the average person makes less than $50,000 or only around $50,000 a year, and $100,000 in the U.S. is actually rare for a person to make. They'll still say that every man should make that amount of money if he wants to date them. Someone with an incredibly high body count. It's basically you get to be her last choice, but you need to bring to her massive amounts of wealth. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And all of this narcissism, all of this sociopathic behavior is 100% in line with the boomers. The boomers are very, very much responsible for this. It's pretty much like I've said, guys, hard times are absolutely here. And it's really no joke. It's really, really no joke. One thing that many people don't realize is the reason why Trump is planning to purchase $1 trillion in crypto. He's planning to purchase $1 trillion in crypto to serve, this is my theory, to serve as, and he already said that it's going to serve as a reserve, as a national reserve, right? But why would you want to create a $1 trillion national reserve? It's quite simple. Because he wants to transfer the value of American cash. He wants to transfer our value of cash to basically to a crypto standard. That's what he's doing. Because the concept of a gold standard is kind of difficult at this point when we just don't have enough gold. We don't. However, what is accessible is crypto, is Bitcoin. And what he's planning to do, is my belief, is he wants to establish that crypto reserve so that he could use that crypto reserve to then end the Federal Reserve. All right? If the Federal Reserve were to be replaced, several alternatives could be considered. One would be reverting to a system where the value of currency is directly linked to gold. This would limit the ability of the government to print money and could potentially reduce inflation. Cryptocurrency. Some propose using decentralized digital currencies as an alternative to traditional central banking systems. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum could offer a new way to manage monetary policy. So what he's trying to do is move us over to a crypto standard. This is why I keep telling you guys, you need to jump on the crypto train as quickly as possible and begin getting invested in cryptocurrency. There's a specific crypto that I've been telling you guys about that you need to follow, you need to begin learning about, because the financial system is teetering on the edge right now. The ATMs are going to freeze, the banks are going to shut their doors, they're going to chain the doors, and your wealth is in jeopardy. Discover how to safeguard your assets with crypto, and at Angry's Crypto Academy, you'll learn how to buy, sell, trade, and invest in the most secure coins, plus discover the dark horse crypto that virtually no one is talking about, which will mint you millionaires in the upcoming bull run. Click the link in the description below to find out what this crypto is and join the Academy today. We actually have a end of winter sale happening right now over in the Crypto Academy. It's So if you want to take advantage of that, just go ahead and visit the Academy using any of the links description of the video to head over to the Academy and take advantage of the end of winter sale, because winter's coming to, well, winter for us is coming to an end, but winter for modern women, you know, hot girl summer is over, broke girl winter is here. So they're gonna have like maybe 50 to 100 years of that, because you know we didn't get here overnight. It took 50 to 100 years for us to get to this point. So it's going to take 50 to 100 years for, you know, things to settle in the middle. And I don't think things will ever be the same ever again, because men are moving on. I made a video many years ago called Men Leaving the West, where I predicted men would begin leaving Western society. And I still believe that's very much going to end up happening, where men are just going to begin walking away from Western society.
About being free and about being happy. And they carried those expectations forward into high school and into college, and brought with them a kind of a level of expectation that was simply unprecedented in, I would say, in world history.
Before we break down the impact that baby boomers had on the labor unions and, of course, Ronald Reagan, I'm actively reaching out to Mike Rowe, Scott Galloway, Jonathan Haidt, and Sarah Payne to get their perspectives on what is happening with some of these discussions. If this video is providing value to you and you would like to support the channel, I would greatly appreciate it if you liked and subscribed if you haven't already done so. It truly does help at least giving me a shot at getting to speak with these individuals. Thank you all so much for your support. To demonstrate employers' frustrations, a 1970 Time magazine article stated, "The young workers are of the same generation as the students who turned the universities into battlegrounds. Like college students, they are feisty, ebullient, and unwilling to put up with things as they are. As union members, they're an unsettling force, pushing labor leaders to heighten their demands for fear of being voted out of their own jobs. In many instances, young unionists have ousted the old leadership. This year, rank-and-file members have rejected a record 1 out of 12 contracts negotiated by embarrassed and harassed leaders."
What did I tell you guys? This is what boomers have been doing for decades. They were the largest generation in American history. And as a result of becoming the largest generation in American history, they suddenly gained unprecedented amount of political power that they still wield today. So they came to realize that we could just vote for whatever we want, and they maintained a certain hive mindset. So they for the next 50 to 60 years, they basically just voted for everything they wanted. They voted for the government to steal from our futures to pay for everything in their present. They stole from our futures to pay for their mobile homes, their RVs, and their Carnival cruise vacations, and just about every single thing that they wanted, because their lives were centered around consumerism. And these people will turn around and say that they were victims, and you know that it's a bunch of other people who are to blame. No one can force you to make these decisions. No one could force you to become a consumerist. No one could force you to kick your kids out of the house and go down this path. Guys, we as people, like for those of you who really actually want a change, you have to understand this is not normal. Throwing your kids out, this is the problem with Gen X. And I run into this problem with Gen X because they don't want to listen. I get it. I could not stand being around my parents. All right. Many of us wanted to get the heck away from them. But what you don't understand is this is not normal behavior. This is pathologically insane, irrational, and sociopathic behavior. Before the baby boomers, you had multiple generations that would live under the same roof indefinitely. There was always, the goal was always to create a better world for the future generation. The boomers were the first generation to do absolutely the opposite, where they kept everything for themselves. We were disliked and unwanted. The only way that we can ever restore our society is to actually create intergenerational wealth once again. The family unit is necessary, and we were conditioned, the boomers were conditioned to believe that, well, everyone should have their own. This is how you ended up with record rates of divorce, where women entered into the workforce. Now the woman needs her own set of work clothing. Now she needs her own car. Now she has to buy lunch. Now she's independent. Now she needs her own apartment. Now she needs her own house. So there's no more sharing of resources. So now everyone's spending more while making less, because you have twice as many people in the workforce as before. Before, when it was only the men, companies where it had to basically give a man enough money to pay for to cover his livelihood as well as his wife and the children. But instead, now because of women entered into the workforce in unison, they split the pay in half. So now they're paying the men half of what the men should get. All right. And now the women are getting the other half of that, and they get twice as many employees. It's a crazy system. And then women believe, oh, we're liberated. No, you had leisure, you had free time, you could have a sip. This is what housewives used to do. They used to sit around, go have a drink in the evening. Kids were off to school, and they were living life. They were living their best lives. Grandma had tons and tons of money, and it was all thrown away because they wanted more. And now they're going to find themselves with essentially next to nothing, because a lot of Gen X women are now reeling down the barrel of old age, and they're finding themselves single with nothing for retirement. A lot of baby boomer women are going through the same thing as well, but a lot of Gen X women are in the same boat. They have nothing saved for retirement. They're tired. They can no longer work these long years. They want to go retire now and stay home while someone else subsidizes their living, and they can't. And a lot of Gen X guys warned about this for years, and modern women did not listen. And now they're going to end up facing a lot of those consequences. It's crazy, but it's a sad reality.
In San Francisco last month, the iron workers won a 30% increase in a one-year contract, a raise of $2.01 an hour. And just for context, that would be an hourly raise of $16.78 today. Even so, the younger leadership is not satisfied. I don't understand what they really want, what it would take to satisfy them, resulting in society to now perceive unions as being unreasonable, planting the seeds for future policies that would gradually weaken their influence. At the same time, global competition intensified as foreign manufacturing fully recovered from the war, putting further pressure on American industries. Where the collapse of the Bretton Woods system in 1971 and the 1973 oil embargo further strained the economy, leading to mass layoffs, stagnating wages, and rising discontent among workers. And as the economic structure that had benefited early boomers began to fracture, the far larger and often overlooked second half of the baby boom, Generation Jones, came of age in an era where job security was no longer guaranteed, fueling growing resentment towards the system that their predecessors had taken for granted. Compounding this growing cynicism was a deepening distrust in American government, primarily shaped by Watergate, where millions of young Americans had their earliest understanding of politics defined by a president they only knew as Tricky Dick. At the same time, they watched the counterculture revolutionaries seamlessly integrate into the very establishment they had once opposed, becoming the same people stepping over the homeless to buy Rolexes. Were disillusioned with both government and the so-called revolutionaries who had abandoned their ideals. Generation Jones gravitated towards a leader who didn't propose government solutions, but instead a fundamental shift away from them. Ronald Reagan.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Running on a platform of low taxes, free markets, and deregulation, Reagan's presidency solidified a lasting ideological shift, redefining economic prosperity simply as a product of individual effort rather than accompanied by government policy, deepening skepticism towards labor unions, social programs, and regulations, reframing them as obstacles to economic growth rather than safeguards for stability. Where his administration, under the agenda of trickle-down economics, slashed the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 50%, arguing that reducing the burden on corporations and the ultra-wealthy would lead to a greater investment in the economy.
$101 for a Krabby Patty? With cheese, Mr. Squidward, with cheese.
At the same time, Reagan's tax cuts coincided with the lifting of SEC restrictions on corporate stock buybacks in 1982, legalizing what had previously been considered market manipulation, allowing corporations to funnel profits into inflating stock prices rather than reinvesting in wages or job creation, shifting the economy's focus from long-term stability into short-term financial gains. Reagan's administration also fundamentally reshaped the media landscape, transforming it from a public service into a corporate-driven industry. FCC Chairman Mark Fowler dismissed the idea of media responsibility, famously calling television just another appliance, a toaster with pictures. And this deregulation culminated in the 1987 repeal of the Fairness Doctrine, eliminating the requirement for balanced reporting and fueling the rise for partisan talk radio and cable news, where simultaneously relaxed ownership rules allowed corporations to consolidate media power, acquiring multiple local stations and shaping national narratives to now align with their interests. And with 24 hours news networks needing a constant audience, political coverage became increasingly polarized.
And that's the rise of CNN. For Trump to actually truly restore balance in our society, I was actually thinking earlier that it has to go more than just, taking down institutions that are no longer benefiting society. It has to go to the point where where the media that is so extremely biased and is basically now just reporting on the interest of corporations, for like General Electric, or General Motors owning NBC, one of them, and and all of these large, all of these major corporations owning all of these news organizations. We need something like that fairness doctrine again, and these companies, they have to basically be forced to surrender, give up they need to lose their television licenses, and they need to basically sell off their television businesses. So for example, it has to become decentralized. It can no longer, we have to have a fairness doctrine again. We have to ensure that there's no more biased reporting. There has to be balance. And to have balance, there's going to have to be sacrifices.
Let me ask you something. When the banks collapse, and trust me, it's coming, will you be ready? Imagine waking up to ATMs that don't work, bank doors chained shut, and millions of people left with nothing. No cash, no access to their savings, and no way to survive. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. That's why I created Angry's Crypto Academy, to teach you everything you need to know about crypto so you can protect yourself and your family. You'll learn how to buy, sell, and even day trade crypto for a living. Plus, we alert you to new crypto trends so you can profit before everyone else even knows what's happening. Right now, I've just published an exclusive investment guide inside the Academy, and it's linked in the description below. In it, I reveal the one coin that could make you a millionaire. A coin so revolutionary, it could change everything. If you missed out on Bitcoin and Ethereum, this is your second chance. This isn't just about financial freedom. It's about survival. When the system collapses and everyone else is selling, you'll be the one buying, prepared to weather the storm and thrive while others struggle to survive. Don't wait. This knowledge isn't optional. It's critical. The link's in the description. Go check it out now.
Deepening ideological divisions and reinforcing partisan identities rather than information that serve the common good. A plague that is intentionally tearing this nation apart. While partisan media reinforced ideological divides, corporate cost-cutting measures reshaped the labor market, abandoning the post-war model of stability in favor of short-term gains. Having further lost career stability, particularly as guaranteed pension plans were replaced with 401ks, Generation Jones adapted by forming dual-income households and embracing what is now popularly known as job hopping, averaging 10 jobs by the age of 34, often switching employers annually between 18 and 24, far surpassing both millennials and Gen Z at the same age. This frequent turnover further disincentivized companies from investing in long-term training and benefits, accelerating the decline of entry-level positions as employers scaled back in-house development programs. And yet, rather than addressing these economic shifts, financial struggles were instead reframed as personal shortcomings.
Now, I want to ask you something. Do you not notice that the patterns of behavior that we're seeing with the baby boomers are the exact same as we see, that the patterns of behaviors that we're seeing with Gen Z are the same that we saw with the boomers. The boomers and Gen Z, they're the same group of people. Even this whole crap with job hopping, where millennials and Gen Xers did not do it, this was something that the baby boomers were doing. Like job hopping, where they would basically not stay at one job, they just keep on jumping from one job to another, and that also helped to destroy the job markets because companies lost faith in them. So guys. Think about this very carefully. The exact same people, the hippies who were like fight the power, then became the power and started going around stepping over the homeless. All right, this is the guys. Gen Z. I told you that the boomers were here for so long that they started to reincarnate. Gen Z are exactly like the boomers. They don't, those of them that are having kids, they do not like their kids. And just like like the boomers always went around claiming that they walked like 5 miles to school, like they had to walk many miles to school. The irony, the joke is that you're going to have Gen Zers, and in the future, they're going to talk about how much they suffered and how hard their lives were. Forget about what Gen X passed through. Forget about what the millennials passed through. No. Gen Z wants the world to know that their lives were so terrible and they suffered so much, when the truth is that they had extremely relatively easy lives compared to the generations that came before them, with the exception of the boomers, who had extremely easy lives. Guys, consider this. In the 1960s, the average person, the average professional only spent 15 to 25% of their take-home pay. And that 25% was at that higher end was in places like New York and in very expensive cities. But in most places in the United States, it was normal to spend around 15% of your take-home pay as a professional. The irony is that the wages have fallen significantly compared to what you would be spending on rent. So now it's common to spend anywhere from 40% to more than half of your take-home pay on rent. This is ridiculous. And this all happened because of the boomers and endless money printing that was voted on by the boomers. It's like you have a bank robber. They rob the bank, and then they leave the bank, and then you have everyone who's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I can't survive. And then the bank robber standing there berating you, saying that it's your fault. You need to take accountability for all of it. And you need to take accountability for what you've done. And you're like, bro, you're a bank robber. You stole everything. You stole our futures. You're holding the bag of money you're holding the bag of money, and that's our money. And they're like, no. I worked for this, all right? Do you understand? I did this and this and this and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you literally voted for this. You guys got together and you voted to rob the bank. And then you robbed the bank. And you have our money and you won't give it back. In fact, you're saying that you would rather give it to your caregivers or let the government have it than your kids. All right, you never liked us. And then there's some boomers like, what are you talking about? My kid's a doctor. All right, I got mine and my kids got mine. You're just a loser because you didn't get yours. So you got yours. You redistributed some of it to your kids, so your kids got theirs, but you don't give a damn about the rest of us whom you robbed, and now you're berating us as you're still spending our money and you're continuing to steal whatever's left of it. Like, this is insane, guys. Don't misunderstand. The taxes that we pay are just an illusion that we're actually paying to fund the government. The actual taxes that's being extracted from us is through inflation. Inflation is hidden taxation. When things cost more, that is the true taxation. And we are being taxed insanely. We can't afford things anymore. Look at the cost of food, and the government has to keep on running up. They have to keep on increasing inflation. They don't care, but they have to keep on increasing inflation, because if they don't keep on increasing inflation, then they can't pay the interest on the debt that they owe. They owe $36 trillion in debt, and now they can no longer afford to pay the interest on said debt. So the only way that they can afford to ever pay the interest again is by shrinking the value of the debt. And to shrink the value of the debt, you need continued hyperinflation to result in the value of money decreasing further. So people end up, and then by the value of money decreasing further, then the value of the debt decreases further, and by the value of the debt decreasing further, then they can make the payments on the interest. But that results in hyperinflation, and then that's hidden taxation, and then and now people basically struggling to make ends meet. So, and the only people who have anything of real value are the people who own the stocks and the real estate, because tangible assets increase while the value of cash continues to plummet. And who are the people who hold all of the real estate in the United States? The boomers and the corporations. It's the boomers. The boomers hold half of all the real estate in the United States, and the rest is held mainly by the corporations. So they've stolen everything. 80% of the stock market is held by the boomers. 80%. All right? They're the wealthiest generation in the history of the world. They robbed us blind. We're dealing with a group of crooks. 100%. Guys, they stole our futures while we were still in diapers. No wonder Gen Z says now we need to steal it back. And they have zero empathy. And of course, they will never admit to what they've done because they don't care. And they've never cared about anyone else but themselves. And guys, I told you, as long as I'm still able to, I'm going to keep on putting them on blast. I'm going to talk about what they've done. I'm going to explain how they stole our futures. And that's it. And I don't care what they have to say. They all have the exact same response. I worked my butt off, blah, 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 blah. I actually challenged the boomer on it once. He was like, I didn't do any of these things, blah, 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 and I'm doing great. I'm like, yeah, and how are your peers doing? You got me on that. They're not doing so good. A lot of them are heading to homelessness. Yeah, man. You know what? You have a good day, man. Peace, man. They turn into hippies immediately and disappear. As soon as you really challenge them, if they have to respond to you, they'll basically just break down. If they don't go into the continued denial, no more, they'll just basically break down and admit they really don't care, and they're just gaslighting everyone and disappear. That's how they are. That's who they've always been. It's all big, guys. Our parents never liked us. I'm a child of the boomers. I'll be 42 this year. I'm a late Gen Xer. Our parents never liked us. They did not like us one bit, and they still don't like us. They only had us to benefit themselves and to benefit themselves and use us as a backup. All right, to enrich their own lives,
resulting in a culture of unforgiving individualism, resulting in Gen Z to enter adulthood in an economy defined by stagnating wages, soaring costs, unaffordable housing, record-breaking debt, mass layoffs, all alongside an incredibly divided nation. And yet, the conversation remains unchanged, still stuck on the same cycle of work hard and get a college education, dismissing yet another generation as entitled and lazy, refusing to ever actually discuss the issues that impact each and every one of us. Where, for example, in 1989, tuition fees and room and board at a 4-year state university cost $4,274, or $11,138 today when adjusted for inflation. A student earning a minimum wage at $3.35, or $8.73 today, could cover a year's tuition with 1,276 hours of work. Today, the average cost of attendance at a public university is $27,146 per year, and that same student would need to work 3,744 hours at the federal minimum wage of $7.25, or nearly triple the time required in 1989. And even if we raised it to $15 per hour, it would take 1,810 hours, making a debt-free degree nearly unattainable. Yet while the cost of education has skyrocketed, its value is in steep decline. Whereas in 1989, a recent college graduate earned an average salary of $34,900, or $90,954 today. Today's graduates make $68,516, with over half working jobs completely unrelated to their degree. Meanwhile, alongside a failing education system, decades of policy failures have left the nation $2.59 trillion behind in infrastructure investment, with 11 of 17 categories receiving a grade in the D range, including roads, transit, and public schools. The national debt has surpassed $36 trillion. Credit card debt has reached a record $1.3 trillion. Student loan debt has exceeded $1.7 trillion, with 62% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And if current trends persist, after-tax, after healthcare income for the average family is projected to decline by 37% by 2030, with rising healthcare costs accounting for the most of the loss. We are a part of a circus, and we don't realize that we are the main attraction. We have to begin having discussions. And I think a lot of people say, so how do we make this change? And I say, do your best. And I think that maybe that's like, I heard from someone that that's like woo-woo kind of magic because it's not an actual result. I want to show you the power of conversation. So my last video, for those of you that routinely watch and hopefully know me, I hope that you see I'm pretty steady. I try not to show much emotion, and if I do, it's in the last 10 minutes. But I refuse to point fingers. I refuse to place blame because I don't think it actually does anything. So I create this historical analysis on an issue that we all face. So my most recent video is why nobody wants to work anymore. Emotional title, right? Emotional thumbnail. These are just two of the examples of comments that I received. All I'm hearing from most of you snowflakes is excuses not to work. Yeah, work can suck. Yes, you are helping a company make money. Get over it. Do your part in society and get a job and earn your paper. It's called life. Get on board or don't eat. So I have a couple options when I see a comment like that, is that I can just get butthurt and I can mute him. I can get butthurt and I can ignore him, go on to my life, tell my friends, pity me, right? I can get butthurt and I can respond with emotion back to him. So I'm going to fuel the emotional response. Honestly, no one's going to say anything that I haven't already said 4 times worse to myself. That's a unfortunate thing to admit, but what I decided to do was to realize this is an emotional response to, in my opinion, a logical video. So what I want to do is I want to try to understand. I'm going to use this as an opportunity for hopefully growth for both of us. And I'm going to ask, what are you saying? So this is my comment to him. How is that what you got from this? Why even watch these videos if you can't expand beyond your limited mindset? Which I think you could argue is still a bit emotional, but this is what he sends in an email back to me. I threw a hurtful, half-cocked, and deleterious comment to the entire thread based on little more than maybe 3 minutes of watching the video you uploaded, because I lost my composure over something that I know so little about. If I were to be completely honest, this was nothing more than a canned response once used ad nauseum by my elders, and somehow I felt the baton was simply handed off to me as a steward of elder wisdom. So that already gives insight of how many people don't understand what it is that I think every single one of us does things and we don't question why we do it and we don't understand why we do it, but we continuously do it.
Yo, Gen Z is about to break down into tears. Gen Z is about to break down into tears, bro. They're about to break down into tears. They have nothing to look forward to. The boomers stole their futures. I get frustrated with the bad behavior of Gen Zers, but I completely agree that they are 100% cooked. Like there's nothing that can be done to really save them at this point other than investing in crypto and maybe even moving outside of the United States, like moving overseas, try to discharge those student loans by whatever means they possibly can, fight it in court, get rid of those student loans, move overseas, invest in crypto, build a business. That's their best bet right now because they have no future. There's no great future waiting for them. The greatest period of expansion in American history is pretty much over. Trump has floated the idea of building some new cities and a bunch of different things. But it's I think the tariffs will make a very big difference in forcing companies to bring business back to the United States. But it will never be the same. We'll never have we'll never be the great industrial nation that we once were. We're never going to have those millions and millions of manufacturing jobs that we once had. Because it's even with those tariffs, even with the 25% tariffs, it's still going to be cheaper to manufacture stuff in China. It's still going to be cheaper to make it in India. It's still going to be cheaper to build it in Vietnam than to make it in the United States. It just is. It just absolutely is. And after the things that have happened in our society, especially with some people, with certain monetary policies, I just don't see BRICS being stopped. I don't think that. I think BRICS is still 100% coming, and it's going to shake things up even more. All right. I don't see the dollar is right now. Trump is really basically with Bitcoin and creating a crypto reserve, a crypto financial reserve for the United States. I believe that he's setting that up so that he can begin using that as a means of moving us away from the Federal Reserve and reestablishing it and using crypto as a new standard, because the dollar does not have much longer. And that's why I keep on telling you guys to go and check out the Academy. I keep telling you guys there's a specific coin that every single one of you should own at least one of. And I also talk about crypto day trading, the fact that we actually have a thing called the crypto day trading blueprint over in the Academy, where we'll teach you how to day trade cryptocurrency. Crypto day trading blueprint for dummies. It's linked description in the video. And you can basically make hundreds of dollars a day just working an hour a day. So you'll always have some money coming in. I tell you guys, like, even on my worst day, it's nice when I can, just look online and I'm like, I have my business. I work hard in my business. But it's nice when I can just look online and I can say, okay, yeah, well, I have this much money coming in, regardless of what I do. Regardless of what I do today, I know that I have this amount of money always coming in. And that's why it's, we say it passive income, but a lot of things are still active income. Like all of the work I do, it's still to maintain my so-called passive income business. It's still active income. But the fact is that I still have that income always coming in. And you guys need to learn. You need to invest in crypto, because that's not an investment in right now. That's an investment in the future. That's an investment in your future. You need to learn how to build a business, build a brand. You guys have to begin doing something now, or else you're going to end up in TTCs, Tyrone 10 cities, and Tyrone is the king of 10 cities.
And I think that almost like gets inherited as you get older, is that you were instructed, you were taught to think and act a certain way. And when you see it happening in a different way, judgment naturally flows through. So this is the next one. This one is really good. Selling your words to an audience is a pretty good gig, isn't it? Sounds like capitalism. What is a better alternative to capitalism? I'll listen. So again, it's like, I don't understand how capitalism even got brought up into this video. So I go through my decision of what it is that I want to do, and I decide, let's give another logical response. Yeah, I'm pro-capitalism. Not sure what your point is here. I don't know why you'd let some random dude trigger you. I'm agreeing with your comment. I'm trying to figure out what made you say that. Sorry, man. I was feeling irritable this morning. I heard no one wants to work anymore, and then complaints about work. Then I saw the first comment talking about boomers, and I made a snap judgment, made an offhand comment, and left. I feel under siege these days, hated by everyone. And he explained some things about himself that I'm not going to disclose. I wake up too early every morning and try to find a video to inspire me to want to go to work. I've worked hard for 50 years. I'm so tired, but can't afford to retire. I read your bio and felt bad for what I wrote. I'll watch your video and I'll make my comments afterwards. He watches it and says, yeah, man, I have a whole lot to say on this subject and you are right on the money. I have said many times to the statement, no one wants to work anymore, not for what you're paying. I have two sons aged 21 and 20. I have worked with many young guys. I know what you are up against, and it's just getting worse all the time. I've explained your plight many times to people in my own generation of what they are doing to ruin things for everyone who comes next. It's corporations that are ruining this country. When I got out of the Navy in 1984, I got my first job in construction by following a lumber truck out to a house that was being built. Times were simple then. I'm sorry for you guys. If I could change it, I would. I did not participate in this corruption. I went to my job every day. That's it. I was screwed, and I know it. And that takes bravery to have.
Just to be clear, he says, I was screwed. But you voted for this, little bro. That's the biggest problem. They blame the corporations, but they don't take any They're the ones who voted for this. The corporations couldn't force you to vote for these things. It's documented that the boomers ganged up together and they voted to do all of these things where they would take out loans, and they basically would say they would do these things in accounting where they would take out a loan, take out a certain amount of money, and say we're going to pay for this using this amount of money, but we don't have to pay it back until like 20 or 30 years from now or 100 years from now. I forget the exact term for it, but there are those of you in the comments who will know exactly what I'm talking about, where they can basically shift debt into the future, and they come to the conclusion that future generations in the future should have enough money to cover that. Guys, this kind of insane monkey account, like this is Banana Republic accounting that the boomers did. All right, like anyone with reason would say this is a scam. And the boomers voted for this, and this guy voted for this, and they're like, well, I didn't do any of it. I worked hard and blah. Did you vote for these things? Did you vote like the rest of your generation to have them, start borrowing from Social Security? Did you vote for them to start borrowing, stealing from your children's future? Did you vote for these things? Did you vote for these policies? Listen, man, I don't want to talk about it, man. I'm tired. I'm kind of stressed out, man. I'm just stressed out. All right. You have a good one, man. That's it. They sound like it. Guys, they become hippies. The hippie comes out of them when you start to really challenge them. The hippie comes out of them. Oh my gosh.
Admit those things. And so again, incredibly grateful for them both spending the time to do that. But what I'm trying to show is that we are talking about the same things. This is a time where logic and understanding has to get us out of this, because emotion is nothing more than this magnet that these corporations and narratives and agendas love to fuel. Let's navigate out of this.
The boomers stole all of our future, and now we're screwed. That's why I keep telling y'all, nothing says you care like crypto. Check out Angry's Crypto Academy. It's linked in the description of the video if you want to have even a chance at survival. What do you guys think about everything we discussed in this video? Let's talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWM and walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.